Wait, where's Tyler?
Okay. So we're tentatively calling the project CLOVER Leafs, which stands for Continuous Loops of Vertical Exiting Ramps Leading Everywhere Around Flinterland Sites. The project we're conceiving as a place to park your character retreats, as well as drive and exist between them. Perspective has become the primary design tool, so moving from section in the first project to plan to perspective, and then using decor to prompt inhabitation and programmatic strategies. We quickly looked at No Stop City, which is a large interior kind of parking garage used for public spaces and programs, which are these images up here of these kind of domestic and outdoor objects occupying this kind of large infrastructure space. The design process was kind of inside out, where we want to use a series of these kind of interior decor-driven program and occupation strategies to inform the larger whole, which we were kind of looking towards Surgeon's prompt at the very beginning, or at last project, of trying to make space out of these image sections, which we kind of took literally. These are the kind of insides of these guys, so using those image sections and kind of warping them into interior spaces. And then these are the spaces in between the objects. So the kind of exploring, Alison will talk about it, but exploring the relationship grammar a little bit more closely, and then filling in the gaps in between. So kind of turning the space of movement and infrastructure into a kind of new public realm.
So the thing that we looked at from Antane's work was this, called this spiral of urban hierarchies, where there's a continuous spiral of housing that there's kind of an infrastructure where different objects are kind of placed on and allowed to kind of live together or separate. So we're kind of using that as our jumping off point, thinking that we're going to have this kind of large infrastructure spiral that goes around that the little previous retreats from the project can kind of park on. And now we're thinking that also they have the ability to not just float anymore, but park, so they'll be more stationary, and we can explore the relationship grammar from the previous project that was kind of, I guess, undercooked or not really thought out so much. So thinking about the in-between spaces that happen, and that's what all of the kind of black sheets are really trying to get into, thinking this is one of the retreats and this is one of the retreats and this is the in-between space that happens. And so these new kind of domestic programs that can occur between the quarrelers or the lovers that couldn't previously occur in Flinterland when it was flooded or underground. So it's kind of like a new interior, outside public space, but happens between the characters. So the process that we went through to get some of these images is we're making some material samples that are down there.
In a way.
So we charged everybody to come up with making kind of a new material sample or textile that could be used in a different scale. So we photographed them we put them in these dioramas and photographed them with little people. So the scale of something like rubber bands or feathers or cork kind of changes once you put it and see a little, put a person on it, little person. So we want to advance that a little bit more also in the coming weeks as far as how to really kind of activate or charge these in-between spaces. And thinking specifically about the kind of gaps in between
So maybe some people could
Yeah.
explain some of the potentials that they found in the...
So yeah, so right now we have some quick photographs of the dioramas with some text kind of explaining a little bit of those in between spaces. Maybe you guys can
Yeah, so really simply the two structures, if you will come together, provide a space which is both for movement, basically the infrastructure that becomes these scenes that is kind of like a window into that scene. And for instance, this guy is placed what he appears to be on a balcony within one of those spaces, and he's basically explained as almost at the top of Flint Tower, barely able to breathe. This man stays relaxed and swag. With the birds, he shares this lonely view overlooking Meese Avenue. So it relates back to the Meese section, and he's overlooking the avenues within and that movement. And he's basically a person trying to experience outdoor everyday activities, but in these spaces within.
For this one, as usual, we're always encouraged to kind of branch out with the narrative and see what kind of is how strong or weak. And for me personally, when you said the story about Fan, where people couldn't understand her even though her world is bizarre, but she still lives in an everyday world. So for me, this is what this was. Even though this world is bizarre, the narrative kind of brings it back to something that everyone can relate to. For example, a Flinterland woman waiting for her date to pick her up for a night on the town. She can't help but imagine if he is as good in person as he is on the Flinterland. So it kind of relates back.
That's clear. I mean, I think to just be efficient, that's clear that the narrative is how to say enhanced. Okay, and that is okay. I think with and also that these situations are right on, because in fact Anne Ting did kind of design this kind of scientific futuristic spaces. But if you look at her interiors, they're very rustic. This is something that we found in her house. It's all space frame. When you come in, it's like it's kind of like flesh and cotton and various kinds of like very cozy, like almost like in a cottage. So that she's not like a mason at all. It's maybe simple. But again, we spoke yesterday. This, for example, if this is one of the spaces, right? Then what I'm thinking, in order to kind of hold this all together, I'm expecting there's going to be beams going all over the place, right?
Yeah. Well,
and then
slabs. Yeah.
Or like anything that can hold. So in fact, it's not just the interior of the box. The box is a great, but there's also something which kind of disrupts it. One or two, because simply structurally you would have to hold this.
Right.
So this one works really great. It doesn't have to be deformed. It's just chopped.
Right.
And this one works better, also quite good. It's just chopped. Because that space, like in this case, the merge is displacing the platonics that she uses into the kind of cozy spaces. So it's both, right? It's like a beam would go like in the middle.
Yeah.
Of the living room. I think that's a potential, because then that would be kind of scientific within domestic. In terms of the artistic, I think your entire thing is the moment. You don't kind of almost need to look for little tiny spaces. It's the, and you're showing it. It's the tower table, right? Although you can redo it in a way. Right. And your logic is different. It's not spiral. Who knows what the logic will be? So I think you have the elements. And making also, I like this because it's making this platonics, making science so cozy, but making it cozy. I think you are. I sense the way you're working, and kind of putting things which don't go together. And to be honest, I'm not worried about the text at all. I'm not worried at all. In fact, the text somehow should not be stronger than an image. That's kind of my not stronger than architecture. Because here, of course, in a non-stop city, you don't need text. But we know the story, which we can write down. So that's you know, even if it's written down, right? Like a caption. So these are rather captions. Long captions. They are nice. Yeah. So I think it's in a good spot. Would be not, of course. Would be nice to do everything possible. And you know, however, you know, it's again, I would like to see
Sense of structure.
sense of structure. That
So
actually
space is
really it's
violated.
like that you are in the structure.
Yeah.
Then you have thing covered.
Well, that's happening here. It's just not being translated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was supposed to be, but it didn't get in there.
Yeah.
Everyone was supposed to have a column or something, but it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
But
It's okay, you're working on it.
But I,
Yeah.
I think you should restrict yourself,
Yeah.
not from the vertical, like that you
Yeah.
have a certain degree that you have to limit. So you go from 0 to
Which could promote
52
programs.
degrees, and no, and that's it. That's your
Yeah,
range, right? So it's the idea of the beam to the slanted beam, but not to the column,
Right.
because I think the column defeats the whole point of monument structure.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And so all of your movements are a sense of slippage, and not a vertical penetration. Right? But that supports. I mean, that supports the earlier work as well.
Right.
It'd be really fascinating if you could take those models and stack them up and actually figure out how to move vertically through them by using the models.
Yeah.
You have, okay, good. Because that would make a lot more sense than forcing a whole other system on it.
Yeah, we brought them back.
Yeah. Really try. Yes.
No, but then I mean normalizing it, like putting together and actually normalizing the structural intention, so it's not. So there's a sense of infrastructure to it.
Exactly. Because it would be infrastructure. Things, you know, electricity, all that stuff can go through
Yeah.
a hollow beam.
Imagine if you have like 4-inch pipes and power conduits and stuff in here as well, right? I mean, so
We could
yeah.
bring that back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's already in the project. It's just not showing up yet in this version.
Yeah.
And it'll just enrich the interior. So then you get these coziness, and you get the contrast and the pushing against the infrastructure with the coziness, right?
Right.
That's where the tension is.
Yeah.
It's like living in the sewers and having a sheepskin rug and a nice cozy chair.
Yeah, we wanted it to be kind of like feel like an interior space that's actually exterior. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. That's clear.
But it's not working. I mean, the graphics aren't working. They're not the translation piece. I mean, these are fascinating. But you know, it's funny, and this had happened on your last project where there was that piece between that didn't.
That part.
The relationship, the grammar that didn't work, and
Right.
so you're really good at the details, and you're really good at this, and then there's that piece in the middle that just didn't click.
Right.
And
That's
you've
what
got to
we're-
be very, very careful you don't do that again on this one.
But that's what we're trying to do with this one is really
want to.
expand
We-
on
Yeah,
how
I
this was
understand,
put together.
except for it's
Yeah.
not here yet.
Well,
We've
no,
said this.
yeah. No, not yet.
It's like it's like
That's-
it's like the Wes and Aaron conversation. Yeah, we know what you want to do,
Yeah.
but it's not here.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
And I think the last final, it's never last, final or kind of ongoing
Second.
suggestion is that
Okay.
could be quite interesting to see how informal those photographs are. We don't know, you know, of course the boxes are there, but the informality of this kind of a shot can be combined with, say, more technical description of the of you know what happens here,
Right.
which you had in your sections before.
Right. So maybe like white in the black, there could be like text explaining the angles and things that are specific about
Yeah,
the specific.
I think just of a drawing technique.
Yeah.
You know, that there are two.
Not text.
there are
Not
two,
explaining, but like drawing it. Yeah.
right, that you use precisely those,
Yeah.
right? Because they're crooked a little bit. You know, it's a little, you know, as a drawing technique would be quite interesting. I mean, you can go technically awesome to resolve the entire Christmas tree. But you can think about, you know, what the informality really is and what the sort of, you know, structure is. Because I think then you can make the case that this is inhabiting informal geometry. It's kind of like an informal Babylon or something like that. Okay, I think conceptually this works, and I'm sure you will figure a way, not, you know, to really merge that. Again, this works really good. So I mean, you can actually repeat, because even if you have only one, you use just these three, and even when you move them around, they always appear different.
Right.
Because they're custom out.
Snapshot frames.
So that's done. It just can be sort of like, you know, pan through and then whatever works. Or the second would be to actually have a regular structure of them, like stack them like regularly.
But you can't tell.
and then of course, you know, whatever appears is what's cut. That's also another thing. So that this would be on top of that, or like next to this. So you kind of make this into continuous structure.
And they overlay infrastructure on the infrastructure too, right? So they become circulation, they become continuity, they become scarce system, they become,
Okay. All right.
That's great.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
So you read